Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're diving deep into Hermann Hesse's, well, truly timeless classic, Siddhartha.
A fantastic choice.
Our mission for this deep dive is really to trace Siddhartha's incredible, sometimes confusing, winding path toward understanding himself and, the world around him. And we want to pull out those key ideas that really challenge how we usually think about living, about learning, and about finding meaning.
And it really is quite a journey, isn't it, for us reading it, and obviously for Siddhartha himself.
Yeah.
This isn't just a story, it's a profound exploration of really universal human stuff. We're going to see him grapple with the absolute essence of seeking meaning, hitting these points of deep disillusionment, and undergoing some pretty radical personal transformations through different life stages. It gives us this unique lens, I think, offering a powerful perspective on what it truly means to be, well-informed about your own existence.
Okay, so let's open the book on Siddhartha's early life. We first meet him as this young man, the son of a Brahmin. That's the highest priestly caste in Hindu society. And he's not just from a privileged background. He's handsome, super intelligent, everyone loves him, everyone admires him.
He's got it all, seemingly.
Totally. His father rejoices in him, his mother's blissful. Young women are drawn to his, the book says, luminous forehead and eye of a king. Even his closest friend, Govinda, wants nothing more than to follow him always. He thinks Siddhartha is destined for greatness. And he's already skilled, right? In debate, meditation, he can even speak the Om silently with deep focus, that sacred sound, the primordial vibration of the universe in many Eastern traditions. By all accounts, he has absolutely everything.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? And this is where it gets really interesting, because despite all this external perfection and all this intense internal spiritual discipline, the text tells us he knew Atman in the depths of his being, that ultimate unchanging self, the divine essence within. Even with all that, Siddhartha finds no delight in himself. He feels this deep restlessness of the soul.
Wow.
It's a huge challenge to our own assumptions, isn't it? How often do we maybe follow the prescribed paths, gather knowledge, achieve what society wants, only to find this inner void?
It's such a powerful paradox. Everything he's supposed to have, everything he's learned, it just isn't enough. His expecting vessel, as Hesse puts it, has been filled by his teachers and the Holy Vedas, but it's not full.
Exactly.
So is this thirst he feels? Is it like spiritual ambition? Or is it almost a flaw, like an inability to just be content with the wisdom he already has?
That's a great question, because it's kind of both, I think. It's definitely the engine driving his quest, but it's also this profound dissatisfaction that, he eventually needs to learn to transcend.
Yeah.
He's wrestling with these fundamental questions that still resonate today, right? Are ritual baths enough to wash off sin? Do sacrifices really bring fortune? Are the gods just creations?
Created like me and you, subject to time, mortal. Yeah.
Exactly. And he wonders, where was Atman to be found? Where else but in one's own self and its innermost part? But despite all the wisdom around him, nobody, not his dad, not the wise Brahmins, could actually show him this way, this direct path to the true self.
Right.
And that, he realizes, that is his thirst. This was his suffering.
Big unspoken thirst.
Yeah.
It really is the core engine driving him, isn't it? It pushes him constantly beyond what's expected, even if it means leaving everything comfortable behind. And that pushing leads him somewhere pretty radical next. One day, he sees three skinny, withered Samana ascetics walking through town, renunciates practicing extreme self-denial. And that very evening, he tells Govinda, early tomorrow morning, Siddhartha will go to the Samanas. He will become a Samana.
Just like that. And poor Govinda is pale like a dry banana skin, but he feels compelled to follow. He sees Siddhartha's determination.
Yeah, that unstoppable will.
This choice, it's another attempt, maybe a desperate one, to fill that inner void. But as we find out pretty quickly, even extreme self-denial isn't going to give him the answer he's really looking for. The Samana life is a total rejection of worldly comforts. Siddhartha gives away his clothes, eats just once a day, fasts for ages 15, even 28 days.
Wow.
He exposes himself to the elements, trains his body to resist pain, hunger, cold. He learns to calm his heart, stop his breathing. He even tries to transcend himself by imagining he is other things, a heron flying or a dead jackal decaying on the sandbank. Very intense. His whole goal is to become empty, empty of thirst, empty of wishing, to find tranquility with an emptied heart.
But even this path, this extreme method designed to basically kill the self, it ends up being another dead end for Siddhartha. He tells Govinda, with a bit of sadness, maybe some mockery too, that what he learned with the samanas, I could have learned more quickly and by simpler means. In every tavern where the whorehouses are, I could have learned it.
Ooh, that's a pretty harsh judgment.
It really is. He's basically putting their intense spiritual practices on the same level as just, escaping reality for a bit.
It's more than just harsh, though. It's a really deep philosophical critique he's making. He's saying these practices, even though they look super spiritual on the outside, they're just another way of running away, of fleeing from the self. He compares it to the short numbing of the senses an ox cart driver gets from drinking rice wine.
Just temporary relief.
Exactly, not real change. He starts questioning if they're actually moving forward or just living in a circle. He looks at their oldest samana, 60 years old, hasn't reached nirvana, that ultimate liberation. And he concludes, out of all the samanas out there, perhaps not a single one will reach the nirvana.
And then he drops this really radical line. There is nothing to be learned. There is, oh my friend, just one knowledge. This is everywhere. This knowledge has no worser enemy than the desire to know it, than learning. What's he getting at there? He can't, all learning is bad, can he?
No, I don't think it's all learning. He's making a really crucial distinction, I think. Siddhartha's hinting that true transformative wisdom, it can't just be taught or received from outside, no matter how wise the teacher. It has to be experienced, realized personally. He's saying the very desire to grab knowledge from others can, ironically, block that direct, authentic understanding. It's about moving from just listening to actively discovering it within yourself.
That inner knowing he sensed wasn't being addressed before.
Exactly, that inner knowing that's already there, sort of waiting.
So this radical questioning leads us to the next big pivot. A rumor, a myth starts going around about Gautama, the Buddha, a man who had apparently overcome the suffering of the world in himself and had halted the cycle of rebirths.
Big news. Though the oldest samana just dismisses him, says Gautama turned back to luxury, but Govinda, he's deeply moved. He wants to hear this Buddha.
Right.
And their departure from the samanas is quite a scene, actually. Siddhartha uses that mental power he honed as a samana to basically compel the angry old leader to let them go with a blessing. It shows a different kind of strength.
Interesting. Control, but used to break free.
Then they find Gautama in Jadama. And Siddhartha recognizes him instantly, not by like a halo or anything, but by his perfection of his calm. A face that seemed to smile quietly and inwardly, expressing peace, expressed perfection, did not search, did not imitate. It's this gut feeling, this intuitive recognition.
More than just intellectual understanding.
Yep.
So what about the Buddha's actual teachings? They hear him speak very clearly, very calmly, about suffering, of the origin of suffering, of the way to relieve suffering, the core stuff, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. And Govinda is just completely captivated. Takes refuge immediately, joins the Buddha's followers, and begs Siddhartha to do the same.
Yeah, and this is where their paths really split dramatically.
Completely a divergence.
Absolutely crucial for Siddhartha's journey. He has this private chat with the Buddha. He says, look, I admire the clarity of your teachings, how you lay out the world as this perfect chain of causes and effects, no gaps, no need for gods, really logical. But he respectfully points out there's this small gap, the part about overcoming the world, about salvation. That's something new, something the Buddha experienced alone, something you can't really prove. And so he argues quite directly, nobody will obtain salvation by means of teachings.
Wow. So he's saying, okay, you can explain the map of suffering, but the actual arrival at enlightenment? That experience can't just be handed over through words. It's hitting that same theme again, isn't it? Wisdom versus learning?
Precisely. He believes the actual experience of the Buddha's enlightenment, that unique breakthrough, just can't be bottled and sold through doctrine. You can show the way, maybe, but you can't give someone the destination.
Makes sense.
And the Buddha's response is just as profound. He warns Siddhartha against getting caught in the thicket of opinions and of arguing about words. He says his goal isn't explaining the world, it's salvation from suffering. And then he gives Siddhartha this killer warning. Be aware of too much wisdom.
Too much wisdom. What does that even mean?
It's almost like the Buddha is acknowledging Siddhartha's point, right? But he's also cautioning him, don't let your cleverness, your intellectual understanding become its own trap. Don't let it stop you from having the direct experience yourself.
That's a lot to take in. This isn't just him changing his mind again, is it? It feels like a total reset of his whole spiritual approach.
Right.
What makes this awakening different?
It's fundamentally different because it's the realization that he has to find his own way, completely alone. After meeting the Buddha, this huge internal shift happens. He understands, the Buddha has deprived me of my friend. Govinda's gone his own way now,
Yeah.
but he has given me Siddhartha, myself. He finally gets it. His wish to have teachers and to listen to teachings is something he has to shed, like a snake is left by its old skin.
Wow, powerful image.
Isn't it? He realizes he must learn the secret of Siddhartha from himself. Not from Atman, not from suffering, but from his own direct, lived experience. It's a complete break, a solitary path now.
And this awakening completely changes how he sees the world, right? It's no longer this fleeting, deceptive veil he needs to think his way through. Instead, the world suddenly seems beautiful, colorful, strange, and mysterious. He sees that the purpose and the essential properties were not somewhere behind the things, they were in them, in everything.
Yes, a total perceptual shift.
He wakes up to the fact that he is nothing but Siddhartha, the awoken one, but is also totally alone. No path laid out, no community. And this brings this cold and despair, which he kind of accepts as the last tremor of the awakening, that painful but necessary break from everything before. So after this huge internal shift, Siddhartha decides, okay, time to actually embrace the world. He calls them the childlike people.
Okay.
He initially rejects a village woman who approaches him. His inner voice just says no. Simple as that. But then he sees Kamala, this beautiful, renowned courtesan.
Yeah.
And he's just captivated.
A new direction entirely.
Completely. He gets rid of the smana look, gets a shave, haircut, perfume, and basically asks her to teach him the art of love.
And Kamala, she's amused, right? This serious former ascetic wants her teaching. She lays out her terms. Fine clothes, good shoes, money, practicalities first.
Right. Pay to play.
What's really fascinating, though, is how Siddhartha uses his old magic, the skills he learned as a samana, the ability to think, to wait, and to fast. He applies these very spiritual disciplines to achieve these worldly goals.
That's wild, using ascetic skills to court a courtesan and make money.
Exactly. Plus his literacy, his poetry skills.
Oh.
He impresses Kamala, wins a kiss with a poem, and she, in turn, teaches him about love, about connection, stressing that pleasure cannot be taken without giving pleasure. It's about mutuality, giving.
So he dives in. He quickly gets into society, partners up with a merchant, Kamaswami, but he approaches business almost like a game. He uses that calmness, that equanimity he developed, but he's often watching others with a sense of mockery and disdain, still feeling a bit superior to the childlike people lost in their everyday worries.
Yeah, he's participating, but also observing, detached. And this is where the insidious nature of this worldly life, samsara, that cycle of birth, death, rebirth, driven by desire, really starts to grip him. Years fly by. That initial bright state of being awake he felt after leaving the Buddha, it slowly fades. That holy source inside him just murmurs faintly now.
Oh, boy.
He learns to enjoy the riches, the lust, the power, but he also falls into sloth. And eventually, greed, the one vice he used to absolutely despise. Gambling becomes his thing. Not even for the money, really, but for that rush, that fleeting happiness or intoxication he gets from the fear of losing big.
Chasing a high, basically.
Pretty much. And his face starts to show it. Discontent, of sickliness, of ill humor, of sloth, of a lack of love. He's trapped in this pointless cycle, just getting tired, growing old, growing ill. He's become one of those childlike people he looked down on.
And this whole downward spiral hits a crisis point, doesn't it? Kamala, she senses her own beauty fading, her own tiredness, and she tells him she wants to follow the Buddha now. Then Siddhartha has this incredibly vivid, terrifying dream. A rare songbird he kept in a golden cage is dead. He throws it out onto the street and feels terribly shocked, like he'd thrown away from himself all value and everything good.
That dream is powerful. It's a symbol of his own soul, right? Trapped and now deadened by this life.
Exactly. That dream, plus his own intense self-loathing from this decadent life, it just clicks. He realizes worthless and pointless was the way he had been going through life. He feels death in his heart and horror in his chest. Rock bottom.
A profound moment of self-disgust.
Utterly consumed by despair, he goes back to the very same river where he'd been ferried across years ago, fully intending to just end it, drown himself. But right at that absolute lowest point, a sound stirs deep inside him, out of remote areas of his soul. The holy word Om, the sound from his youth.
Ugh, the Om. It's like a lifeline back to his deepest self, isn't it? It instantly snaps him out of it, wakes his dormant spirit. He realizes the foolishness of his actions. He doesn't jump in the river. Instead, he collapses right there on the bank and falls into this incredibly deep, dreamless sleep. Like total reset.
Yeah.
When he wakes up hours later, he feels like 10 years had passed. He's refreshed, renewed, that whole previous life. The merchant, the gambler, it feels like a distant memory, like a pre-birth of his present self. He's Strangely well-rested, strangely awake, joyful and curious.
Amazing. And then who should show up but Govinda,
Yeah.
his old friend, now a yellow-robed monk, walking by. And Govinda doesn't even recognize Siddhartha at first, still dressed in his rich, albeit now probably disheveled clothes.
What a reunion that must have been.
Right, Siddhartha is overjoyed to see him, but when Govinda asks where he's going, Siddhartha says he's still on a pilgrimage. He adds, "Not eternal is the world of appearances. I'm wearing a rich man's clothes because I have been a rich man, and what'll be tomorrow, I don't know."
Wow. Living completely in the present moment. He's let go of all those fixed identities. Brahmin, samana, rich man.
Totally freed from them. It's an incredible shift from his earlier self, always chasing one specific, unchanging truth or state.
It really is, and it makes you ask, well, what was the point of all that? All those wondrous detours, as the book calls them. Siddhartha himself thinks about his old feats, fasting, waiting, thinking, and feels like he traded them away for cheap thrills, but then he realizes, no, this whole roundabout journey, from Brahmin to samana, from rich man to suicidal despair, it was all necessary. He had to become a fool, he says, to find Atman again within himself. He explicitly states, I had to sin to be able to live again.
That's a radical idea. Sinning is a path to life.
It is. He looks at the river, notices it's always going downhill, always moving on downhill, and singing and being happy through it all. He sees his own downward spiral wasn't a failure, but part of the natural flow, a necessary descent to find depth.
And it's right there, at the river, that he finds his next step. He feels this deep love for it, decides to stay. He finds the old ferryman, Vasudeva, the one who took him across years ago, and Vasudeva actually remembers him. Siddhartha offers him his fancy clothes and asks to stay on as his apprentice, his trainee.
And Vasudeva, the simple man who is a master of listening, just welcomes him. He says the river taught him everything, especially how to listen. And he shares this wisdom. The river teaches that the good to strive downwards, to sink, to seek depth. He tells Siddhartha that for most people, the river's just, an obstacle, but for a few, it becomes sacred. It teaches them everything.
What a place to arrive. We've really traced this profound transformation, haven't we? From the privileged Brahmin seeker through the austere samana phase, then plunging into the worldly life, getting completely entangled, and finally emerging as this humble ferryman by the river. We've seen him try everything: tradition, asceticism, the Buddhist teachings, worldly experience. But in the end, the true knowledge didn't come from outside, from teachers or doctrines. It came through the fire, the crucible of his own lived journey, including all the painful parts.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for us, for you, listening? Siddhartha's journey really seems to teach us that sometimes, maybe often, the greatest learning doesn't come from what we deliberately seek or what we're formally taught. It comes from the raw, unfiltered experiences of life itself, even the confusing detours, the parts that feel like mistakes. True self-discovery might mean shedding our neat ideas, letting go of what we think we know. It might mean accepting, as Siddhartha did, that maybe we have to sin to be able to live again, to truly find our own unique path. So here's something to think about. What aspects of your own journey, even the unexpected twists and turns, the ones you didn't plan for, could they actually be part of your essential path, leading you towards an awakening you never saw coming?